Hello everyone, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about stainless steel, which is one of the most popular mods for Medieval 2 Total War, and it's been, one of the most popular mods for a long while, and you could say it's probably the most popular of the historical mods for Medieval 2. Of course, I think in recent years you could say that perhaps Europa Barbarorum 2 has become more popular as it's, well, since it was released much later. But, back in the day, I remember this mod was really popular. Broken Crescent, earlier versions of that, and Chivalry 2 back in the day. Those were the big mods. And stainless steel is actually one that I didn't really play that much. And I'm going to tell you why that is, and why I think it's still worth playing in 2021. So this is going to be a review of sorts, impressions video of sorts, kind of similar to the Chivalry 2 video that I made yesterday or the day before, depends on when this comes out. But yeah, so stainless steel 6.4, this is the last sort of vanilla version of stainless steel that was released. There are a whole bunch of submods that have come out for this mod in recent years, especially the ship submod, the historical units and recruitment buildings mod, as well as titanium, the titanium submod. And I have talked about the ship submod before on the channel. Unfortunately, just for me, it was a bit unstable, right? That mod was a bit unstable for me. But in any case, yeah, let's talk about vanilla stainless steel. And I have the early era campaign loaded up here. So kind of similar to the original Medieval and similar to Chivalry 2. Of course, stainless steel has era campaigns, but not as many as Chivalry 2 and not as many as the original Medieval. So the original Medieval has 3 era campaigns, early, high, and late. And Chivalry 2, by comparison, has 5 eras, the Dark Ages, early, high, late, and Renaissance, which starts in 1401. So stainless steel has 2, early era and late era. And the early era starts in 1100 AD, so it's a bit later, a bit after the 1080 start date of the standard Medieval 2 vanilla campaign, grand campaign. And the reason they do this is because they want to include the Crusader States as a major faction here. So, mods like Chivalry 2 actually, in the early era, it does not have Crusader States, right? So similar to, vanilla Medieval 2, also similar to Chivalry 1, the medieval mod for Rome Total War. As a Western European faction, you go and you conquer a province in the Near East, and then you build buildings and you create the Crusader State for your major faction, right? It acts kind of like a kind of like a colony for you. Well, stainless steel does have a Crusades mechanic, but it has the Crusader States as a major faction. To compare this to Chivalry 2, in the early era, there is no Crusader States faction that's separate. In the high era, you do have the Latin Empire, right? You have the Latin Empire that controls Constantinople, right? And some of the adjoining provinces, right? Because they had taken it from the Byzantines in 1204. And you also have Crusader States in the Near East, right? And then in the late era, actually, it's really cool because the successor to the Latin Empire, you have the Principality of Achaia as the major faction of the sort of anti-Byzantine Latin Crusaders. And you have the remnant of the Crusader States in the Near East, the Kingdom of Cyprus, as a major faction in the late era, which starts in 1311, if I'm not mistaken. But in any case, stainless steel does not have a campaign option where there is no Crusader State major faction. They are there in both of these two era campaigns, and that has its advantages and disadvantages. I tend to prefer the way Chivalry 2 does it, but stainless steel also, it's a complete overhaul, right? There are no vanilla icons left here. Everything is overhauled. So there are a couple of new factions here. Not as extensive as Chivalry 2, not as extensive a list. So you have the Crusader States as one of those new major factions. You have Aragon, which I am very happy to see. Again, Aragon is also included in Chivalry 2 as well, and it was included in Medieval 1. So this is a faction that really, honestly, it should have been there in standard vanilla Medieval 2, but for some reason they left it out, and they just lumped it in with Spain, I suppose you could say. And then Milan is replaced with the Republic of Genoa, which is actually sort of an amalgam faction because Genoa controls Pisa here as well, whereas of course historically Pisa was a separate yet powerful republic in this time, more powerful in the early period than even Genoa. And that's why in, for example, Chivalry 1, Pisa is the major faction in northern Italy, right? You also have more historical factions. So instead of Egypt, you have the Fatimid Caliphate, more specific, right? Instead of, what was I looking for here? I was looking for, Portugal, of course, only controls, part of Portugal. It does not control Basque country as well, the Kingdom of Navarre, which it does in vanilla Medieval 2, which I always found strange. Also, you have Novgorod as a new faction in stainless steel, and I think that's a very good addition because just having one Rus faction, it kind of leaves the steps wide open, right? And then, of course, there are also the Cumans here, the Cuman Khanate. And it's sort of a amalgam faction because, as you can see, they also control kind of this Pecheneg territory. Pechenegs, of course, who fought the Byzantines in this early period. So in terms of the major factions here, and instead of Spain, you have Kingdom of Castile and Leon, which, of course, is more historical to have than just a Kingdom of Spain. So additionally, there's also the Kingdom of Norway, and you also have Lithuania, which I think is a very good addition, because of course there was a lot of activity in the north here, in the Baltic region, especially with the Teutonic Order, and there were crusades up there as well. And then you have the Kingdom of Norway, which I'm a little mixed on the inclusion of the Kingdom of Norway, because it's already kind of dense up here in terms of major factions. And there's also the Khwarezmian Empire. So I think having the Khwarezmians is really cool. It really makes this mod stand out. Of course, compared to vanilla Medieval 2, compared to Medieval 1, and compared to Chivalry 2 and Chivalry 1 as well, the map in Stainless Steel 6.4 extends from, Ireland all the way to parts of Central Asia, right? And that's how they can include the Khwarezmians as a major faction here. And I think it's really cool that they have them here because they're overlooked in a lot of mods. They are in Broken Crescent, which is very good to see. But in any case, because the map is so big, I do feel like there are some areas that are neglected here, right? One of those areas is the Balkans, right? So Bulgaria, Serbia, right? Those are factions that I think definitely could have used some representation here. In the Near East, there is the Georgia, Kingdom of Georgia, Armenia as well, and Kilikia. Those are factions that could have used some representation. Of course, they do add a couple of, there is another Orthodox faction in the Republic of Novgorod. However, I do feel like the Balkans and the Near East could have used some more attention here in this mod. And I think chivalry, you know, because chivalry is more cut off here in terms of how far east it goes, it does give the Balkans and the Near East the attention I think they deserve. But, you know, that's not to say that Stainless Steel's approach is wrong by any means. I think it's very good, and the map is second to none. It's really an excellent map. So much better than the vanilla map that's included in Chivalry 2 as well. It utilizes a version of the vanilla map with additional provinces added in a lot of locations. But in any case, let's start up a campaign here, and I have more things to say about Stainless Steel, of course. So again, this is going to be sort of a semi-review video, impressions video, and comparison video, going off of the video I made yesterday, or the day before, depending on when this comes out, about Chivalry 2. So one of the major factions included here is the Crusader States, with its capital at Jerusalem. And I think, you know, they've made some interesting choices here, right? So you start out with some disconnected Crusader States. You have the Kingdom of Jerusalem in the south here with Kerak, Acre, and Tortosa out of Crusader control. You have the county of Edessa, and you have the Principality of Antioch. And then, you know, the Edessa is cut off from Antioch by the province of Aleppo here. I'm going to toggle the fog of war. Spoiler alert. So, yeah, the region of Aleppo cuts off Edessa from Antioch. I think that was a bit of an odd choice. I would have connected Edessa with Antioch. But I mean, I would have made a choice here. I would have perhaps just had the Kingdom of Jerusalem and then Antioch and Edessa as like Crusader rebel factions, or as kind of, I would have thought of a different way of including the Crusader States, because I find this method a little bit immersion breaking, because I'm okay with amalgam factions. Like, I don't like them. They're not my preferred way of including major factions, like, for example, Genoa here. It's sort of an amalgam faction of the republics of Genoa and Pisa. Of course, Pisa was a little bit more powerful in this early period. But I'm okay with that sort of amalgam faction, because I understand why it was done that way. It's done for balancing purposes, for making it so that it's also for the AI as well, the AI of the Republic of Genoa, so it's not too weak at the start, right? However, I do feel like the Crusader States in Stainless Steel 6.4 could have been done differently. Honestly, I feel like they could have pushed the start date back and then not included the Crusader States as a major faction. That's not to say it's not a cool campaign. I just feel like the inclusion of the Crusader States as a major faction here sort of, you know, I would have definitely preferred Kingdom of Georgia included as a major Orthodox faction in the Near East here, or Kilikia as well. I feel like those would have been more interesting inclusions than just the Crusader States, because if you think about it, you know, you have an interesting unit roster, right? With Crusader Sergeants, Armenian Infantry. There's a unit, Crusader Knights. There's a unit here that's can be recruited in Edessa called the Edessa Guard, which is a cool unit. Why can't I find it? Well, it's included here somewhere. But and though a lot of those Crusader units, I think, would have been good as units you can recruit in the Near East as one of those crusading Catholic Western European factions, rather than just making a separate Crusader state faction with those units. Oh, that's another thing. Stainless steel does include an AOR system. I don't think it's as strong as the Chivalry 2 AOR system. And of course, Standard Medieval 2 does not really have an AOR system. So definitely a plus for stainless steel. And Chivalry 2, of course, I think has a better AOR system. But also, you know, there are historical errors here. I mean, Tbilisi was its own province here, controlled by its own dynasty in the early period here. The Kingdom of Georgia was based in Kutaisi in the early period. And of course, there are a lot of things that are just not quite accurate. So in Kutaisi, instead of Georgian rebels, you have steppe rebels. Again, similar to Vanilla. In Cagliari, this is my favorite, you have island rebels. I don't understand this whole island rebels concept. It's really funny, but of course the Balearic Islands get Spanish rebels, whereas Sardinia gets island rebels. I don't know why that would be. Another thing about having the map be so big, or extend all the way to parts of Central Asia, is that, you know, in the later period I showed in Chivalry 2, which includes Corfu, Euboea, Lesbos as their own provinces. Those islands allow you to have a more historically accurate late era where, you know, you have Genoa controlling Lesbos, you have Venice controlling Euboea, as well as Crete. There are more provinces included in the Peloponnesian Peninsula in Chivalry 2, so you have Venice controlling, you know, you have Sicily controlling Athens for a time, you have the Byzantines controlling Morea, you have the Principality of Achaia controlling Corinth, so another Crusader state. And of course, the map being this spread out, it doesn't really allow for the inclusion due to the province limit, right? So they have to include a lot of these important cities in eastern Iran and parts of Central Asia, which prevent the more accurate, right, depiction of like the Balkans and Greece and the Greek islands, which were of course divvied up by Venice and Genoa and the Crusaders after, you know, Constantinople fell in 1204 to the Fourth Crusade. So that's definitely a point where I think that's in Chivalry 2's favor. But, you know, as you can see, Stainless Steel's map is amazing. It's one of the best maps I've seen for a Medieval 2 Grand Campaign. It's really great. You know, the map for Vanilla Beyond, actually, that I've showed off on the channel, is quite a nice map as well, but this one is very nice too. Definitely looks a lot nicer than Chivalry 2's map, which is of course just a modified version of the vanilla map, which is why this one looks nicer. But in any case, in terms of the units, so Stainless Steel's unit rosters, let me load up a Genoa game just for comparison's sake. Yeah, there it is. So the unit rosters in Stainless Steel, they are a little bit disappointing, in my opinion. right? There are so many units added in the submods for stainless steel, like titanium and ship. There's also a new submod, a newish submod called Roar of Conquest, which I will be talking about in a later video because I have it downloaded and I've been trying it out. And Roar of Conquest actually really improves the unit rosters here. It kind of leaves stainless steel kind of the way it is in a lot of aspects. It doesn't make as many changes as, for example, the ship submod or even titanium or the historical units and recruitment building submod. But it does fix the unit roster issue that I think stainless steel has. So at the beginning of the Genoese campaign, for example, you can only recruit some urban spear militia. And, you know, even though I understand why that is, I understand why you feel like you want to put those limitations in the early game, especially as a smaller faction or a faction that's has more of an economic bend than a military one like the Republic of Genoa. I do feel like it's too limited, right? So you have to spend a lot of time just, you know, and then, you know, you build this upgrade to the town watch building, and what you can, it's just urban spear militia, so it's the same unit, right? You can just recruit more of them. And then if you look at the building browser, it's town guard. So it takes a little while before you can get, and then crossbow militia, and then cavalry militia. And, you know, these buildings take a long time to construct. And I just feel like it's a bit too limiting in the early period here. So you have to really be careful. Now, I don't necessarily think this is a point against stainless steel. I just think that it's a little bit too limiting. So I would have personally included some sort of archer unit as well in the beginning here. So a lot of mods like Chivalry 1, Chivalry 2 as well, they include Genoese sailors, right, which is a kind of archer unit that's also decent in melee. I think that would have been a nice unit for Genoa, and of course there's also Pisan sailors in Chivalry 1, if I'm not mistaken, which would have been a nice unit as well. I just think the unit rosters in general are a little bit too limiting at the very start of the campaign. I think, you know, if you at least had archer militia or even crossbow militia recruitable at the start without you know, waiting 8 turns or 10 plus turns to construct a couple of barracks buildings, I think that would have been a nice change. But other than that, additional thoughts on stainless steel. I think that because stainless steel was developed, it was completed much after Chivalry 2. So Chivalry 2's latest version was released, I think, a few years before stainless steel 6.4, if I'm not mistaken. But Chivalry 2 includes XAI, a version of XAI, which is an AI mod that's pretty good. Chivalry 2's AI is pretty good. In terms of campaign AI and battle AI, it's not bad. However, I do think stainless steel's battle AI and campaign AI is superior. It's aggressive. It's good. You can tweak it in the launcher. Of course, that's another advantage of stainless steel over a mod like Chivalry 2, is that stainless steel includes a very nice launcher, a very advanced launcher. So let me actually get into a battle here. But yeah, stainless steel includes a very nice launcher, which allows you to not only choose the era campaign, like Chivalry 2 has a launcher where you can choose the era campaign, and that launcher has given people so many issues over the years. Like, honestly, I get so many posts on the channel about issues with the launcher and issues that I've personally never encountered, right? So, like, all I can say a lot of the time is, you know, make sure you're not running the launcher as admin, because that usually is the where a lot of these issues stem from in terms of the launcher, is that a lot of people are trying to run the game as admin, and the Shift 2 launcher does not work when you run it as admin. But additionally, the stainless steel launcher allows you to change the era campaign, to change the AI. So you have a couple of different AIs. There's Grakul's AI, which I believe is more aggressive. There's the other AI, which is in the middle. And then there's the Lusted AI, which is more campaign AI savvy. It's less aggressive. I prefer the middle or the aggressive AI here. I think right now I have it on the middle AI, the campaign AI, in terms of aggression. But I do feel like the stainless steel AI is stronger. That's also due to the fact that I'll send these guys over to my doge here. But that's also due to the fact that I think stainless steel, in terms of the combat, in terms of the economic system, yes, it has been changed so that development is slower. You can already see that in the build times, in the limits on your recruitment at the very start of the campaign. The economy system works very differently compared to a mod like Chivalry 2 and compared to vanilla as well. So you have a ton of money here at the start of the stainless steel campaign when you play a economic faction like Genoa. Of course, if you play the Crusader States, it's a much tougher campaign in terms of the economy and in terms of your start position. You're surrounded by potential enemies at the very start, whereas Genoa, you have rebels around you and the Holy Romans and the Papal States. If you have a war, it's going to be on one front, right? This kind of northeastern front, at least at the start, because the French don't have a border with you. The Sicilians don't have a border with you, and the papacy is not going to be aggressive against you. So, you know, the campaigns in stainless steel are very varied, right? So there's definitely something that stainless steel has, just like Chivalry 2. The start positions are very varied. I talked about this. The Principality of Achaia, the Principality of Serbia, Principality of Armenia, those are tough campaigns where you're surrounded by potential enemies. Whereas, for example, the Byzantines in the early era, Chivalry campaign, England, those are much easier campaigns. Economy is much better at the start. Chivalry 2 adds a lot more buildings than stainless steel, in my opinion. Or that's just a fact, it's not my opinion. The unit rosters, you have more varied levy early era type units, infantry and cavalry at the start of your campaign. Doesn't matter what faction you're playing as. You have access to some kind of basic cavalry. So like Genoa here, you don't even have basic cavalry or basic archers at the start of the campaign here. That's something I feel is a little absurd. I don't think it's the correct way to limit a faction like Genoa or Venice at the start of the campaign here. And, you know, a lot of submods for stainless steel, they do take care of this limited unit roster issue. They add a ton of new units, like I said, Roar of Conquest, for example. Well, let's get into this battle here. But I have to say, additionally, the combat in stainless steel, the battles, The battle AI in stainless steel is very nice. Excellent battle AI, especially for a Medieval 2 mod. I feel like the battle AI handles itself very well. Better than Chivalry 2. Better than Vanilla, definitely. It's very good with flanking. I love this green color for the Genoese General's Bodyguard. That looks a lot like the Milan one. I think that is the Milan one. Interesting. I wonder if that's an error. But let's get our crossbowmen into position here. Also, in terms of the graphics, I do feel like stainless steel does a better job in terms of the graphics, both on the campaign map and in terms of the units. The stainless steel units look nicer in general. And the stainless steel submods also look very nice. That's not to say the... let's check out this militia cav here. That's not to say the Chivalry 2 units look bad or anything. But stainless steel, I don't know, it has a bit... The units are reskinned a little bit nicer, I think, than in Chivalry 2. But that's such a minor thing, honestly. Especially for me, they look pretty similar in general. So let's wait for the enemy to get kind of poured down here. I think I'm gonna send my infantry back just a tad so that I can flank them. Flank these enemies. Yeah, I'm gonna try to flank from the left. Also, Chivalry 2 utilizes the vanilla music, which of course is great. It's a great soundtrack. One of the better ones. It's not my favorite. I prefer Rome's soundtrack. I prefer Medieval 1's. I prefer Napoleon's. I prefer Shogun 2's. But it's a great soundtrack, don't get me wrong. But Stainless Steel has a very nice soundtrack. It includes a lot of classic Medieval 1 tracks. It includes a lot of nice Medieval 1 tracks. It includes a lot of nice original tracks. If I'm not mistaken, some of the music, I'm not sure where it comes from. But yeah, definitely. I would have to give the point to Stainless Steel in terms of the sound. Definitely, the Stainless Steel soundtrack is more varied. It's a little more interesting. After, you know, hearing the vanilla soundtrack, you know, when you install a mod, you want to get a bit of a different experience. So I have to give Stainless Steel the point in that regard. It's a very nice soundtrack from the main menu theme on. It's all very cool. Though one thing I don't like is the victory soundtrack. Like when you win a battle as the Crusader States, I don't like that victory soundtrack. But yeah, we won that battle. Now I have to say this, one of the things about the Chivalry 2 combat, Medieval 2 vanilla combat is, you know, it's not as quick as Rome, for example. I think it's actually technically this slowest vanilla combat in the series, if I'm not mistaken. Or some of the slowest. Mission success, that is nice. So we've got some useless peasant infantry, that's great. But yeah, so you can see my frustration at the limited Geno unit roster at the very start of the campaign here. Of course, this doesn't go for other factions. Other factions like Juarezm, Holy Roman Empire, France, they have more varied rosters even at the very start. The Crusader States as well. It doesn't take long before you get more interesting units. But in any case, you know, I think that is pretty much everything I want to say about stainless steel, playing stainless steel in 2020, and comparing it to other major mods and to vanilla Medieval 2. Now, this stainless steel is vastly superior when compared to vanilla Medieval 2, that's no doubt. But is it superior compared to Chivalry 2? I think I covered a lot of topics in this video. And this is more of a discussion type video, a discussion with you, because I like having discussions with you in the comments and hearing your thoughts on these famous modifications. But, what do you think? Is Chivalry 2, in principle, a better mod than stainless steel, or is stainless steel superior? Now, stainless steel has a better map. It has better AI. It has better graphics in a lot of regards. It has a different assortment of new factions, right? And it does feel a bit more epic in terms of the scale. But Chivalry 2 has those era campaigns. It has that kind of morale shock realism combat that I really like from mods like Empire Realism and Chivalry 1 and Napoleon Realism, Rome 2 Realism. That kind of morale shock combat, which I really appreciate. Stainless Steel's combat, excellent, but it just works a little bit differently, right? It's more of a sort of, what do I want to say? It's, it's not that different compared to the Chivalry 2 combat. I'll give it that. In any case, these are just some of my thoughts on stainless steel in 2021. It's definitely worth your time. It's an excellent mod. I do feel like it kind of drops the ball in some regards. So for example, Genoa in the early game, your unit roster is so limited and you have so much money and yet you can only recruit like one militia guy right at the start. So you have to expand quickly and get a bunch of castles going, and it's just, there are some aspects of the campaign balance here that I think are refined in the submods and are more refined in Chivalry 2 than in vanilla stainless steel. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Stainless steel, really excellent mod. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend playing vanilla stainless steel before going into the submods. Perhaps I'll stream stainless steel because I know it's such a popular mod for Medieval 2. You could say the most popular historical mod for Medieval 2 of all time. But if you'd like to see more stainless steel let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoy videos like this about the historical Total Wars and their mods, consider leaving a like. Consider subscribing to the channel. I talk about all the historical Total Wars, from the original Shogun all the way to newer games like Three Kingdoms and Shogun 2 and Napoleon and Rome 2 as well. Consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.